Alright, so I'm on attempt number 3 to try and write this video. So I've decided I'm going to perform it like I've performed all of my speeches throughout high school. Which is to say, I'm not going to prepare shit. Alright, so in this video I'm going to actually do some game development instead of slapping my strange time-lapse obsession to music that could get me into a lawsuit. Also, yes, I'm doing voiceovers now for some reason, because that's what everyone else does, and I'm unoriginal. On the topic of game development, if anyone actually enjoyed any of the footage that was shown in the last video, it is all but entirely gone, as me, large IQ, corrupted and or deleted a large portion of the project files for the game, and so I'm going to be spending my entire summer vacation rewriting infrastructure code. So on that lovely note, I'm taking this opportunity of losing a large majority of my work to actually go back and make a proper video series on how I developed this game in the first place, so I guess I can drag all of you in this hellscape with me. It's gonna be a fun experience. So to get started, I whipped up a title screen fairly similar to the original version that can be seen in my last video, with the only notable exception here that I put a button for the options menu, of which is something I'll be covering probably later in the video. Can't be too sure though, this improv style of video creation leaves me to a mindset of, hey, I'll get there when I get there. From the main menu, we can start a new run-through of the game, and here you can see the improved map design. I removed the VHS effect that could be seen in the last video, because it sort of interferes with the new sleeker inventory design. Speaking of which, we have a new sleeker inventory design. I have sort of streamlined the controls and the functionality and the look of the inventory menu to make it feel a little closer to what I want it to, as well as make it a little easier to work with on the back end. Now, I'm probably not going to become one of those YouTube channels that goes through and explains all of my code, because I feel like that might be a little bit boring. It's like I'm absolutely going to become one of those boring channels that's going to explain all the code. What, you think if I'm going to deal with all this, I'm not going to make you deal with it too? But don't worry, I'm going to do the best I can to explain what I'm working with in order to appeal to some of the people who would rather watch someone else develop a game than go out and develop one themselves. Now, how this inventory system works and function is that it is a list of arrays. Now, for those of you who don't know simple programming, an array is kind of like a bookshelf of data, while a list is more of like a pile. So imagine a stack of boxes. If you remove one in the middle, you're going to have to move the other boxes on top of the stack down. So every time you add something into the list, it shifts the position of everything else in the list. While an array, you put something on a bookshelf, you take it off the bookshelf is still there. So you still have that place to put things in the future. And everything else, the position of everything else isn't compromised. Now I have a list of arrays, which is where this example starts to kind of fall apart, because that doesn't make sense. But I basically have small segments that I want to keep my information organized within a larger segment that I'm sort of don't really care where the position of the data ends up. So the point of this probably overcomplicated way of doing things is each of the arrays in my list of arrays contain small segments of data for each item. So what the item looks like, the item sprite per se, the item's name, the item's value, the item's description, that's literally it. And the list is basically what order they appear in on your little inventory marker, whatever, the new streamlined inventory UI. Now, what goes hand in hand with the new inventory system is the new crafting system. Before, I had a sort of Minecrafty style of dragging your items into item slots, and then clicking on a little button to craft the resulting item. But I felt that could get a little tedious, a little unintuitive to use at times. This new system works by clicking on an item in your inventory bar to select it as indicated by a blue outline around the item slot, and then simply clicking on a second item to combine the two. If there is no combination, there will be a red X that will appear over both items, and if there is, the new item will be subsequently added to your inventory. Pretty simple, pretty quick, less clunky when you're trying to run through the game for 100 times over, or whatever it will take to figure out all the different endings. On a third subsequent point, and dang am I on a roll, the shop system is back in order, or at least the selling your items portion of it. The actual place where you buy items is still work in progress on the Trello board, but anyways, I've redone the textures, streamlined the item slots to fit with the new system of the streamlined inventory. I love the word streamlined. And I mean, that's most of it really. There's some new fancier buttons, items show their values when you hover over them. Unlike in the original edition where you couldn't see the value of an item until you sold it, you can now accurately determine how much things are worth just by going to your nearest GDS, Government Deposit Station as it's called in lore, and just slapping a bad boy in there. And the best part about it is, unlike the old item system, this doesn't actually have to deal with any information processing. It's all set up from the previously mentioned inventory system. So for example, the GDS just holds the item slot that the item that you're looking at is in which case it uses that information from the array in the list to display the item, check its worth, all that, displays the appropriate buttons, and it's not an absolute nightmare to work with. So thank God for that. Okay, after a quick break for toast and Mountain Dew, I have fleshed out the new and improved dialogue system. It's a little bit less of a pain in the ass to use, but it's not quite done yet. However, it's got some nice, slicker animations to it, and it works a little bit better on the back end. Segue into another code explanation. We're using another list and array list of lists, because the term is technically an array list, but whatever. Another array list of lists to differentiate the different actions that we want the dialogue system to make, namely things like giving the player items mid-dialogue, changing who's speaking mid-dialogue, and most importantly, actually putting the dialogue on the screen, because that's the most important part of dialogue. Anyways, the last thing that's left to do is to add the dialogue options as a system into the rest of everything, but that can be pushed off for another time, and by that I mean another video, because I've still got a few more things to cover in this one. So, because of the fact that I already have over 10 minutes of voiceover recorded for this video, and I still haven't got anything significant done, I'll just explain the options menu and we'll just be done with this piece of garbage. We basically got a few different options, funky on-off switch buttons for the different options in the menu. Once I implement the save system, your preferences and options and volume and whatever will be saved in between times you boot the game, but for the time being we've got an option to turn on and off audio sounds, because I know that it can get obnoxious. Same thing with Fast UI. Fast UI doubles the speed of all of the UI elements like dialogue, fade, transition, etc. Extra information points out when important things happen in dialogue, stuff that's kind of subtextual that you might want to know for certain endings, or just generally information that's important for other endings, and a simple full screen button and a volume slider. Not really much to say here as far as the code goes. It's just a stupidly large amount of UI drawing, trying to fit it all in the space and make it look right. Buttons at the bottom to start another playthrough of the game, go back to the main menu, close the options, etc. The little gear button at the top of the screen is the button that you hit for the options menu, and honestly that's about it. I mean, this is most of the boring infrastructure stuff that needed to get done. I need to re-implement the combat system and actually finish the dialogue system that I keep putting off because coding is bad. But besides that, we are pretty much done as far as this video goes, honestly.